What if one of the most famous ships in history was doomed long before it ever touched the iceberg? In April 1912, the RMS Titanic set sail on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York. It was the largest and most luxurious passenger ship of its time, built to represent wealth, power, and modern engineering. To the world, Titanic looked almost unstoppable. It was celebrated as a masterpiece of human ambition, a floating palace that seemed to prove how far progress had come. On board were more than 2,000 people from very different worlds. Some were among the richest people alive, surrounded by elegance, comfort, and incredible luxury. Others were immigrants and working families chasing a new life across the Atlantic. They all stepped onto the same ship, but they were not all heading toward the same ending. For the first days of the journey, Titanic seemed exactly what people believed it to be: magnificent, powerful, and secure. The dining rooms were grand, the cabins were elegant, and the atmosphere on board reflected complete confidence. Few could imagine that one of history's most famous disasters was already moving closer through the freezing darkness of the North Atlantic. Late on the night of April 14th, everything changed. Titanic struck an iceberg. At first, the impact did not seem catastrophic. Many passengers barely noticed it. There was no immediate chaos, no dramatic explosion, no obvious sign that the ship was about to die. But below the surface, the damage was already fatal. The iceberg had torn open sections of the hull, and freezing seawater began flooding the lower compartments. That was the moment Titanic's fate was sealed. The ship had been built with watertight compartments that were supposed to improve safety, but they were not enough to save it from this kind of damage. As more compartments filled with water, the balance of the ship began to fail. Engineers quickly realized the truth: Titanic was going to sink. Even then, many people on board did not fully understand how serious the situation was. The lights were still on. The ship still looked stable. The band continued to play. But beneath the calm surface, time was running out. As the truth spread, panic slowly grew. Lifeboats were uncovered and lowered, but there was a terrible problem. There were not enough of them for everyone on board. In one of the darkest details of the disaster, one of the most famous ships ever built did not carry enough lifeboats to save all the people trapped on it. In the freezing early hours of April 15th, the nightmare reached its end. Titanic broke apart and sank into the Atlantic. More than 1,500 people lost their lives in the icy water. Families were separated, passengers vanished into the darkness, and one of the grandest symbols of modern confidence disappeared beneath the sea in only a few hours. But the story did not end there. Titanic became more than a shipwreck, it became a warning. The disaster exposed deadly overconfidence, poor preparation, class inequality, and the terrifying reality that even the greatest human creations can fail in a single night. It shocked the world and forced major changes in maritime safety. From lifeboat requirements to emergency procedures and radio operations. More than a century later, Titanic still grips the imagination because it feels bigger than a single event. It was luxury, ambition, pride, and tragedy all at once. It was a ship that represented the future, only to become one of history's most haunting symbols of human vulnerability. The Titanic was not just a ship that sank. It became one of the darkest reminders that no matter how powerful something seems, disaster can still arrive without warning.